Hello everyone and welcome to Music Theory with Gim. In this installment of Analyzing Harmony, we're going to delve into the password theme from Godzilla, Monster of Monsters. Before we get into any music theory, however, let's take a listen to the music. So the tonality of the theme is C and its mode is minor. Harmonically, we're dealing with only three different chords, which are C minor, E minor, and A flat minor. C minor is, of course, the 1, but E minor is the chromatic minor 3 chord, and A flat minor is the chromatic minor flat 6. Both chromatic chords form minor-based chromatic mediant relationships built a major third apart from C minor, which in my opinion is one of the darkest types of chromatic mediants available. Like most uses of chromatic mediants, E minor and A flat minor are not functioning as structural harmonies. Instead, E minor and A flat minor are prolongational chords used to embellish C minor. They do so specifically by operating as neighbor chords, which is determined by the actual arrangement of chords being C minor, C minor, and A flat minor, which is played through twice in the actual theme before it hits its loop point. As you just heard, E minor and A flat minor are not being used to establish new tonal areas to be developed, nor are they used to take us anywhere new structurally. Instead, they are simply expanding the sound of the tonic area and providing an additional intrigue by leaving C minor and then returning to it in its original state. In the theme itself, the chords do not sound as vertical voicings, but are stated horizontally as arpeggios. Rather than change the design of each arpeggio and imply contrapuntal voice leading, we have constant structures, meaning the design is unchanging from one arpeggio to the next. For example, C arpeggiates from its root C up to its 10th E flat, and then descends to the octave below before moving to E minor, which repeats the same design, only it now begins from E. This is essentially all there is to the harmony of this theme. It's simply C minor, the tonic, being expanded by chromatic mediants. Despite its simplicity, however, it's a very bold statement of harmony, and as mentioned before, is a sure way to establish a dark or ominous mood. But rather than bring this episode to a close now, we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at the melody. In the first four measures, we hear the melody begin on C and then move to and from B, followed by a leap to E flat, with each note receiving the duration of a whole note. Though these are all locally chord tones of the chords they appear above, such as C being the root of C minor and B and E flat being the fifths of E minor and A flat minor respectively, we can view C as being the core structural tone, with B and E flat being embellishing tones of C. B can be viewed as a complete lower neighbor tone, whereas E flat is an embellishing or incidental leap that will return to C in the following phrase. In the next four measures, we hear a slightly more elaborate melody that uses half notes. C ascends to G in measure 5, E ascends to B in measure 6, and then C descends to G in measure 7, followed by a descent from A flat to E flat in measure 8. Despite remaining relatively simple, this is actually a great example of using inversions as a means to create variation and add embellishments to a melody. I say this because these four measures are designed entirely around the same exact melody of the first four measures. Structurally, we still have C, B, C, and E flat, but now the interposing tones B and C have been inverted. This produces an ascending major seventh between the first two notes, C and B, and a descending major sixth between the latter two, C and A flat. Rather than leap directly from one tone to the next, however, we hear G and E between C and B in the first two measures, producing, on the surface, consecutive melodic fifths that delay the arrival of B until beat 3 of measure 2. And in the next two measures, we hear G and A flat placed between C and E flat, producing consecutive melodic fourths that, similar to before, delay E flat until beat 3 of measure 4. These final two measures can actually be viewed as a variation of a variation, since the consecutive melodic fourths can be considered inversions of the preceding fifths. And this additional variation is beneficial to the overall design of the melody, because rather than hear E flat land a tenth away from the C of the first measure of the theme, it ends up in the same octave and only a third above C. So again, by inverting these structural tones, a lot of space has opened up, allowing for numerous smaller leaps to break down the larger structural leaps. Not only do these smaller leaps break up the larger intervals, they also provide directional variety, as we now have both ascending and descending motion as we move from C to B and from C to E flat. And that's pretty much all there is to this analysis. So with this melodic analysis in mind, as well as the previous analysis of the harmony, let's take another listen to the password theme and then bring this episode to a close. For those of you that are patrons, you can expect to receive a PDF containing this analysis. I do not intend to make any additional commentaries on this particular theme, but if I do, you'll certainly gain early access to them. Of course, as my patrons, it is encouraged that should you have any thoughts or questions about this analysis or the theme as a whole, reach out to me. For those of you that are not patrons but would like to support my endeavors, be certain to subscribe to the channel and click the notifications bell, like the video, comment below, and share this video as often as you can on social media platforms. If you feel the urge to take your support to the next level, hop on over to patreon.com/gim and consider pledging some coin. If you are not a user of Patreon or simply would like to make a non-recurring financial contribution, you can do so at ko-fi.com/musictheorywithgim. These videos do take a lot of time and effort, so any support on your end is greatly appreciated. Either way, until next time, thank you for watching this episode of Music Theory with Gim.